Hey, White Sox fans, right back at you. Boy, you're not used to this type of. It's off season and we're giving you rapid fire podcast. We must be nearing 200. We must be nearing the holidays, the end of the year, and the most important date coming up in December, and that is Sox Populi podcast 200. Well, we're just one away. It's number 199. And this one is devoted all toward talking about the Take the Field event that happened recently in Orlando and was participated in by my guest here on a very exclusive, it's almost like a Q&A. It's like I'm talking to a White Sox member themselves or I don't know, some other major media figure, because it's just a one-on-one podcast. We're not talking about like Rule 5 or trade deadlines or how bad the White Sox are this year. No, this is something that's a little bit more off the field, and it's with Hannah Filippo. Hannah, thanks for taking the time to share some of your experience, first time experience for anyone affiliated with Southside Sox, to share some of your experience with that with us here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm happy to share my experience.
Okay, not any person off the street, because I mean, it's in my backyard here, so Lord knows I've tried to crash it. Not just any person can say, "Hey, you know what? I want to show up to this thing. I would like to work in baseball, or I would like to rub elbows with the stars." So, can you detail a little bit of the process of even trying to get there in the first place? Because again, it's not just, "Hey, if you pay your fare down, come on in."
Sure. I applied to an event, a program called Take the Field, and it is designed for young professionals, mainly recent college grads slash current college students who are interested in pursuing a career in baseball, but just don't know how to get started or where to start. So this event is really focused on providing those networking opportunities with people who are currently working for MLB clubs and
Mm,
also the commissioner's office, as well as providing inside information on what it's even like to work for a club, what opportunities exist, what types of skill sets or experiences are preferable for you to have
mm.
going into a potential entry-level job or internship there. So that is what the event is primarily focused around.
Did you get a sense of, given that you just outlined that it was something that might be even geared more to people who are sort of somewhat at least already in the industry, did you get a sense of the balance of people there? Were you sort of one of the rare people who got to crash the gates, not, currently, you know, interning or a year away from, having done a summer with a team or something? Did you get any sense of that?
Honestly, I did feel like I was in the minority, but not that much of the
Mm,
minority. I was actually kind of surprised by the number of people who had already worked for a team
mm,
or who had done Take the Field in prior years since
mm,
it's been a program since 2018. So I was a little bit, not in a bad way surprised, but I was just surprised at how many people there had industry experience, but it was also unique for someone who had never worked directly with a club. I'm not going to say
mm,
not industry experience, but worked directly for a
mm.
club or the commissioner's office to come in and with a fresh set of eyes.
Well, it's good. You meet those people who had been to take the field before, and you're like, oh, okay, they trickle them down the list because they're back. They didn't get snatched up, so you knew you just moved ahead of those people. Perfect. It's good to know that stuff. Your opposition research. What were your expectations just entering? I know this is sort of first time experience, and it's not anybody can make. So there's some prestige in even being asked to attend this. Your expectations going in, really not having had this sort of specific baseball experience before.
And I'm not just saying this because I'm trying to look good, but I had high expectations mainly just because I had read a lot of previous write-ups
Mm.
and watched videos of previous events in years past of Take the Field. And I had done a lot of research, so I had high expectations that I would meet a lot of really smart people and I would get that more inside perspective. And it certainly met those high expectations.
Mm. Those are high expectations because you just said you expected to meet smart people affiliated with MLB. And I'm just kidding, MLB, because we know they're, at least behind the scenes, some really smart people. I'm not sure the faces of MLB always are, but yeah, so in just beginning to rub elbows and talking, even whether it's people who are sort of on your level of sort of outside going into the event, and then the people on the other side who are hosting tables, team reps, and that came away pretty impressed with the with the know-how and personality of the people you were engaging with there.
Yeah, I met people from all sorts of positions, including scouting, player development, advanced scouting. I met people from the commissioner's office who actually write the rules of
Mm,
baseball, and people who do really interesting behind the scenes work, like working on family and mental health, specifically with players and their personal life, and all those types of things that go into operating what is essentially a
mm,
business. And that was
mm.
a big takeaway. And I had kind of I suspected it, but you don't think about it on the outside as a fan until you talk to people and maybe just take a little bit more of a different perspective of the game of it really is a business, and all of the people that are involved in making that business run, whether it's an individual club or the the league itself, are very smart. And it's really fascinating to see how all those different perspectives come together.
What was the balance? And again, we appreciate getting sort of this inside look. None of us, and think I can speak for our viewers and listeners here, none or very close to none of us have been inside an event like this to know. So this is all new information to us, and we appreciate you sharing it. What was the balance, or was there any balance, between MLB representation, and was there minor league franchise representation, or does that just fall enough under the umbrella of MLB that MLB takes care of it all?
Do you mean for individual clubs or minor league
Yeah, were
as
you getting to talk, learn a little bit about minor league and representatives there, or really was it really just sort of top down MLB teams and league?
it was mostly top down from the people I met and talked to. I'm sure that there were people who worked directly with minor league teams in terms of more of the player development or the scouting side, especially amateur scouting side, really. I did meet quite a few people, but a lot of the representatives did come from that overall baseball ops slash MLB representation.
Mm-hmm. Well, given that like 90% of teams are owned by one company, they could have easily had a presence there. It could be like one company just setting up a big table to basically lay out job options for all the minor leagues. So, MLB didn't ask my advice. What's your first impression? I mean, you're walking through the door. You're you're getting some sunshine. You remember that there's a thing called the sun, and you got a little sunshine on your face on your way there. You check in, you show up, with the high expectations, but going in, obviously, you've been to events like this. You're a professional yourself. College, et cetera. We've all had those nervous moments and getting into it, just walking through the door in the first place. So we had ease to begin with. Butterflies, not having, I don't think, you can tell me if so, like sort of a running partner, there with you necessarily. So you're sort of doing this on your own. And even if you had a partner doing this for the first time, you're still sort of on your own. Was a comfort level walking through the gates the first time?
I had done a lot of prep before, like a lot of prep. So
Knowing you
it
had, I'm
was
not surprised, but yes, go ahead.
I felt comfortable, but you never really feel fully comfortable once you walk in that door and you see just how many people, I'm not gonna say look like you, but they all want the exact same
Yeah,
thing and they all have similar skill sets. So that
yeah,
in general is always daunting.
yeah.
But when you walk in and you realize that the people on the other side, the people who have been in my position, are extremely friendly and eager to help mentor people like me who they identify has have high potential and are very eager and willing to learn, that helps ease the nerves a lot
Mhm.
and helped me be really more authentic and in the present. And I think that was something that going into it, I was very forward thinking in my prep. But when I got there and everything, I finally felt like, wow, this is like it. Like I'm halfway there. I've kind of made it there. Then it allowed me to sit back and actually enjoy being in the moment and really appreciate the privileged position that I was in.
Yeah. as much as I'm sure you were wringing your hands a little bit thinking, okay, will I be allowed to attend this? Are they going to let me in? The fact that, and who likes that part? Like, geez, I couldn't even get in the door. I couldn't even knock on the door. But then once they've accepted, that has to help the comfort level a little bit because it's like, okay, well, they thought I was good enough to show up here, so I belong.
It did feel like that comfort of, okay, there's a degree of they see something, they I'm going to be part of this community in some way. That feeling of inclusivity did resonate when I got there. And then also just so I was there, the event was Saturday and Sunday. I stayed Monday extra so that I could attend a networking event. But I also stayed, even though it was 3 hours, because I was invited to club meeting. In between those, seeing all of the people that I've seen and watched on TV or listened to podcasts. I mean, I took notes on everybody I talked to and got the privilege to see, but like meeting Vic Hahn, meeting Chuck Garfien, meeting Jeff Passan by chasing him into the elevator, like seeing all those people that felt like larger than life figures and
Mm,
give it having the privilege of just 2 minutes of conversation helped
mm,
ease my nerves that they knew what it was like to be
mm,
me in my position at one
mhm,
point, and they're gracious and willing to give that time to me
mhm,
now.
mhm. Yeah, for sure. And knowing how, in most cases, I mean, I can't speak to any of those folks' experiences of sort of clawing your way in, but usually it's not in a way that's as officially endorsed as applying for Take the Field and then getting accepted to it. And so, anyone that's running into them, even if you are actually being chased into the elevator by someone, is like, okay, yeah, this person belongs. It's sort of like, I mean, not to make too much of it like a club, but yeah, I mean, you sort of had to have some credential to be in. Even the folks who weren't in the industry yet, like yourself, you crossed whatever minimum bar, to get there. So yeah, I wouldn't think you'd be like looking over your shoulder too much, like, okay, why are there autograph hounds or whatever? Sure. Um, yeah, you know what? As the host of well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe all 199 of these podcasts. I don't know. I think there were a few done in my absence. Maybe more than I know. A bunch of like, clandestine pirate podcasts. I know there are at least a couple, but let's just say I've hosted 199 of these. And we don't usually do like, we do meet the player podcasts like, hey, welcome. Oh, it's great to have you. We don't usually do exit interview podcasts. And I'm not necessarily saying that's happening here, but one day, Hannah, I mean, she may be on the other side of the press box. She may be struggling to criticize whatever team she's affiliated with because they're not the White Sox. Uh, Anyhow, on that note, hey, listen, more anecdotes from Orlando, Florida, Take the Field event, courtesy of Hannah Filippo after we take a short break. I promise we'll be back. You owe it to us to come back, sit through a minute or two. The best stuff we always stack at the end. So come on back and enjoy that. Hey, White Sox fans, it's Sox Populi podcast 199. I'm your host, Brett Ballantini, who serves I think you could argue I rarely serve a purpose in these podcasts. And this time around for 199, I have less purpose here than ever as just the cue to Hannah Filippo's A in this take the field sort of survey experience, sort of walk through the event with Hannah. She's guided us a little bit through stuff. I mean, maybe through like first day. And because the fan page demands it. And because Hannah just said, Brett, I can't just tell all my stories. You got to tell some story about being at the winter meetings, man. I'm sure it was just fascinating. And of course, off camera, I told her one that makes really no sense to repeat here. And of course, I've dogged places like the Chicago Tribune and, oh, I don't know, writers like Paul Sullivan in the past. We'll skip that one. You got to go through the archives. 199. I'm sorry. You got to go through the archives to dig that one out. But I will say one of my favorite memories of the winter meetings was after my first year covering. I jumped in after the Blackhawks had won their first Stanley Cup, decided like an idiot that why would I take my off-season time, which was coming up for a few months with the Blackhawks, why not just jump into covering another sport? Comcast, in its wisdom, had managed to not hire a White Sox beat writer yet. So that was fortunate for me because, of course, I would much rather choose the sport I played and my first love, White Sox. Moved over that. And so this was my first winter meetings. And you might have noticed if you pay attention and watch, well, I don't really want to dog, you know, the beat writer scene any more than I do, but it's a weird job and you tend to not be really healthy doing that job. You're frazzled all the time. You're getting flights at 2 in the morning. It's not a hard job. Don't get out the violins or anything like that. It's a job of great privilege, but it can grind you down. In the process of even my brief time, well, I guess technically it was basically a full year of beat writing coverage between the Blackhawks and the White Sox, I had, there had become more of me. And so one of my favorite memories, really, after putting in some work in my real first off season in about a year to trim down quite a bit, was walking in and really, I don't know why he was holding court like pretty much at the opening gate of the winter meetings, maybe because he could make a quick dash, out to the bar or something. But Ozzy was there talking with a lot of foreign media, just of course being Ozzy Guillen. And as I passed him, we caught each other's eye, and his jaw dropped a little bit, and he was really, really complimentary about the fact that I looked so much healthier. And when you're in that kind of state, it's a little extra boost of having put the work in. And Ozzy has, you may be aware, or maybe this is insider info, he has his off-color moments. And so the fact that a guy who can be as grizzled and rough with his beat writers, playfully, I guess, to actually be so outwardly complimentary and a big hug and all that. That was a nice welcome to, again, even I'm walking into these winter meetings. This is my first time doing it. Of course, there's nerves. Where do I go? What do I do? Not necessarily having any teammate there either. That was a nice way to kick it off. Can't say that I had some sort of stellar winter meetings there from there because, like, what happened? I don't even know what happened. That winter meetings, probably not much of all, other than being denied BWAA membership. Whoa! It ties into my other big winter meeting story that you won't get here. You got to look at the archives. So anyhow, I've spoken from my allotted 5 minutes giving that anecdote, but bless you, Ozzy. That was very sweet of you. I will never forget that. I appreciate it. Let's seg back to the purpose of this podcast, which is not me telling enough goofy anecdotes to lose my voice. Um, let's seg it in a similar way, Hannah, to what you had told me, and certainly not to diminish your experience there, but just some of the fangirling moments you had, because this was your first experience with probably not speaking for you, even getting as close to a lot of these people as you end up being, but also then again, sort of like on their level. You're in the event just as legitimately as they are, and they might be on the other side of the, of the speaker podium. But you already mentioned some names that you ran into, but give us a couple of those anecdotes. I mean, particularly chasing down someone in the elevator. Maybe we've always been there. I have. Maybe we've always, all of us have been there, but it's still fun because it just makes you say, all right, I got to do this.
Yeah, there were so many more people that I had seen and wish I had the chance to talk
Yeah,
to, but it wasn't the right
right.
moment as much as I wanted to interject. But I wrote them all down. I did see two tables. I was eating lunch one day, and two tables away from me was Bruce Bochy. I saw Alex Cora. I did see Will Venable. I passed him right next to him in the hall, and I almost said something, but he was talking to someone, but a
Mhm.
lot taller in real life than I expected.
Ooh.
No offense, well, I have a really bad gauge of heights, but so I can't really tell in videos, but definitely taller in real life than I expected. AJ Pierzynski, I saw them actually filming his, I forgot the name of the show, and I'm blanking on it, but that show that he records, Tom Verducci, Stephen Vogt, and then also Joe Espada, manager for the Astros, was one of the guest panelists in the Take the Field event. I actually spent a decent amount of time talking to Rajay Davis, which was really fun. There was a fun little moment where we counted Game 7 of the World Series, and I made a little comment. I made a polite comment that I was pulling for Cleveland in that series for sure. But those were some of the people that I did get to see and talk to, and it was definitely something where I just blacked out when I was talking to them. I tried to fit in as much as I could about me, but also how much I admired them, or
Mm.
especially for all the Sox people, how big of a Sox fan I was, which I'm sure they don't get very often. I
You
don't think many
think?
people run up to them and say, "I'm a huge Sox fan," but here we are.
Yeah, they've got their winter jacket over their jersey. Yeah, these days, yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, we were even chatting at a point where, when you did see Rick Hahn and, you made the determination which was the correct one. Not that there's a right or wrong, and had you not, it's not like you're a bad person, but just to say, hey, listen, I'm here. I'm a table or two away. Why not just go and say hi? Again, you're not picking like the Mariners GM where you might have much more, despite you have like, you know, six favorites. That there's not the direct connection as you have with the White Sox for the highs or lows of the Rick Hahn tenure. So, how did that go back? You did just sort of like swallow hard and say, okay,
I
let's say
did.
howdy. Yeah.
It was a little awkward. Well, for me, he probably didn't realize it was awkward for me, but I was sitting next to him. There was one table separating us, and I kept kind of awkwardly staring, like, I swear I know who that is. I reckon that's it's an executive. I know it is. I can't put my finger on it.
You get a
And then sure
blank.
enough, like some kid sits down, his son apparently, that I find out later. His son sits down and I'm like, okay, well maybe not. I got it wrong. And then sure enough, another executive comes over and he's like, hey Rick, and I'm like, oh, that's how I recognize him. Oops, I feel a
Now
little
you
bad.
knew what you had to do.
Yeah, then I was messaging you like, do you know Rick Hahn? Is he nice? Like if I walk up to him and say I'm a White Sox fan, is he gonna disown me, or is he gonna be like, oh, I don't have time for you? But he was very nice, as with everybody else that I awkwardly ran up to. But they were all very nice and respectful and stuff. But he said he asked what you were up to, and he said to tell you hi, actually. So very nice guy.
Yeah, well, as I said, you listen, I've walked up to Jerry Krause in an airport, so I was never going to tell you not to do it because, of course there are cold shoulders and of course among players as well. And, but, then if that's the case, there's a bunch of other people to talk. And you knew that at that event, if you got some cold shoulder for somebody, or if Passan had like hitting the elevator door close button frantically, like, okay, well, there's other people to talk to. So, no, no problem. You're not going to have that break your heart. But, so it did turn out that uh, you saw Jeff and recognized it enough to say, so,
Yes,
hey,
he
Jeff.
well, my fiance kind of teased me. He's like, "Why did you ask? I asked him. I said, "Are you Jeff Passan?" And he was like, "Why would you ask that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't want to make an awkward mistake." It's like you can't ask that if you say you're a huge fan. I'm like, "I know. I was trying to be respectful, but
Yeah, yeah.
I did." He said, "Yes, I am." I shook his hand, and then sure enough, it was after he had pushed the button for its elevator. He's like, "Oh, it's my elevator." And there was a moment clearly where I should have probably just let him go, but I was like, "Can I ride up in the elevator with you?" So I just awkwardly walked my way into the elevator, and we had about 30 seconds of awkward elevator conversation. And then I made the right decision to not follow him down the hallway when he got out of.
Fair enough.
uh, I figured that was where the line was drawn, but it was nice that he did not mind me crashing his party, even though at that rate, I don't know if he had much of a choice.
And if he had got that type of sort of like sweet humility thrown at him a lot, then he would have been like, oh no, but I get that all the time. He would have had some shtick, prepared, to just goof around, with you or something. So that was a unique enough experience for him to be like, oh, okay, this person doesn't really want to talk, so I can I can take a moment.
Yeah, I
Well,
imagine it doesn't happen in real life as much as I would assume it doesn't happen as often as I think, just based on people's genuine reactions. It was not getting super canned answers made me think that a lot of people, rightfully so, probably embarrassed or not sure how to approach. And I would just say, like, especially if you're coming from a place of authenticity and you read the room it probably won't hurt.
Oh yeah, it's way worse to be like too boisterous about it.
Yeah.
Okay, let me inject another anecdote because we're talking Anna Filippo, come on. But we were my dad and I for a time were on a mission to hit all ballparks. It happened to be 2005. We were in St. Pete. That was the year we were going to go to Florida for games. Turned out to be a good year to see a Sox game, right? And we had pretty good seats, like it's hard to do in St. Pete, but and Ken Williams was behind somewhat behind the plate. And I, in the process, as happened a lot, as I found out in my future beat career, lost my voice quite a bit. My voice was out or frightening, and we identified Ken, and he's like, "Okay, let's go." And I'm like, "I can't go talk to him. I can't, I can't talk, Dad. Just go." I mean, my dad is a very comfortable fellow, so he has no problem talking to people. But yeah, I think what he said, the first thing he said to Ken Williams, like, when's Frank Thomas coming back? Which, not that there's not even worse things to say, but given the fact that there was some history there and the team was doing well as it was, and of course, leave it to my dad to ask a question that puts the GM on his heels. So, as long as you didn't make people run away, Anna, then, you're coming in the right way with the right humility and genuine interest and genuine thrill to meet these people. I would have to think that gives you a little goose. Jesus, somebody ran up to me like, "Oh, babe, great." I'd be like, What just happened? That's awesome. I can't imagine that gets old. I don't know. Talk to
I
AJ.
I did catch all of them when they were in the middle of going somewhere, so evidently they did have to run, but not because of me. I'd like to think I did
Right.
catch Chuck
They
on
didn't
his
pick up their
way.
speed.
Yeah, they did not, thankfully. I would hope I would have noticed that, but I did catch Chuck on his way to actually filming the
Hmm.
White Sox podcast, which was really cool because then I didn't, well, now that I'm saying it, it makes it sound like I'm trying to give myself an out, but I did not stalk around, but I did notice I walked past another time, and sure enough, him and Will were out on the balcony talking and filming the podcast, which is really
Hmm.
cool to see.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it does seem like really almost anywhere you turn, you're going to see something interesting, White Sox related or not. I mean, there's 30 teams, but now you mentioned extending your stay a little bit. You mentioned actually getting to, sit down. I mean, what approximation of actual teams did you have some kind of substantive, contact with? I'm guessing it's more than zero and not 30, but it did make it worthwhile enough that you did really get to sit down and connect with some organizations, right?
It did. I talked to quite a few small market teams actually, and I didn't intend on it,
Mm,
but at the time somehow during Take the Field when I was talking to teams, I somehow started branding myself inadvertently as somebody who was really passionate about small market teams, and I think that it was an interesting angle I just randomly adopted because I'm sure not very many people are very interested in small market teams or want to work for them. But having that angle opened up a lot of doors with some
mm,
interesting organizations and helped me kind of have those more tactful conversations about what it's like to work
mm,
in a front office than it would have been with like the Mets or the Dodgers, which I did talk to the Mets and Dodgers, but it was just a different type of conversation you're
mhm.
having than somebody like the Rockies or the Twins.
Mhm. I'm surprised that you're a little surprised, Hannah, given the fact that you've been a lifelong fan of a team that, while we do consider it to be major market, does not operate like a major market. So you're at home with being a fan of a small market team and wanting to work for a small market team because our Chicago White Sox, of course, are the smallest of small market teams. Sorry, Jerry. Change the way you do things. Did the event then, based on some of these, contacts, and that maybe you basically at least brushed elbows with all 30 teams, meet your expectations going in high? You're saying, I'm guessing pretty good results, but did it really meet what you wanted it to? Or did you want it to last, like 2 weeks instead of 2 days? Or
I would like to say what, not in a bad way. I would like to say I wanted it to last a week, but it was just very intense. As
Mhm,
with little winter meetings, what I found out is just every day is hours of meetings or conversations, and you're just mentally and emotionally super exhausted from it. Really cool experience, and I'm really glad that I went, but I don't think I could have stayed longer. And I did end up not feeling great afterwards because of how
Yeah,
depleted and tired I
yeah.
was, especially you're you're sitting in uncomfortable work clothes the entire day, you're walking around, you're meeting people, etc. It's just a lot more tiring to
Hmm.
than you'd think. But I did
Yeah.
feel very energized and motivated from it, and I got a lot of good takeaways about what it's like working in the industry and what types of things I could do if I want to pursue them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just the rubbing elbows with Will Venable or Chuck, or look who's over there. I mean, it's not just the sort of random like fan moments. It's just the fact that yeah, you don't necessarily know what your next opportunity is, whether somebody's going to, invite you to something that goes, extends hours. Yeah, I mean, that's got to be, I mean, any type of job fair along those lines or job interview is intense. But then, this thing where it's sort of like, you didn't have an itinerary that said, okay, I'm going to start with, Atlanta, then Arizona, then, get all the way down to, you know, New York or whatever. It's what's around the, as much as there was structure, I'm sure to some degree it's also like, okay, just go. And I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty intense when you've got to almost be 360 with the thing. And I don't envy that as thrilling as it would be to be there. You know, that's intense. And I'm sure not
Yeah.
everybody thrives in that atmosphere.
It is overwhelming at times, and you're sitting there with like the schedule says maybe 2 hours of networking, and
Mhm.
you want to use that time, but you only have so much time to have meaningful conversations with
Yeah,
people. So you have to figure out who you want to talk to
yeah,
in terms of who you want to make those connections with and where is your time most valuable or
yeah,
most well spent.
yeah.
So those decisions are difficult. And then also just, it's not a formal job interview, but you're being watched by everyone all the
Mhm.
time. So you have to keep up that rigor. You have to keep up that composure the entire
Mhm.
time, which is tiring to basically not have a break for 12, 13, 14 hours straight.
Yeah. Okay, well, I saved it for the last minute because it's a question I don't want to ask because I want to be able to talk to you, Hannah, next year and the year after and the year after and the year after. But, your current status, how do you feel coming away from it? And do you think, do you think that, whether immediately or eventually you're going to be able to make inroads with this experience?
I would love to be able to. The feedback I got, and I got some really helpful feedback from a few people on what I can do if I want to continue pursuing this route. It's definitely manageable, and I can definitely start implementing it today. It's just a matter of having all the time to do it. And
Mhm.
that's just what it comes down to. But mentally, I feel perfectly happy and I'm pretty open to whatever opportunities come my way.
That's Sox Populi and Southside Sox's Hannah Filippo, destination unknown. One day to be somewhere else. It will break my heart and I'll shed a tiny tear. But until then, we'll keep doing podcasts together. Hannah's been on a ton. You've been with us for a year plus now, and we'll keep doing them together. I appreciate all the effort you put out, and definitely for the insight into something that really none of us, I'm going to go ahead and say, none of us have had such an experience as you just got through. So thanks for sharing it with us, Hannah.
Thank you, Brett.
All right. Number 200 is coming up. I don't know what we're going to do for it, but it's coming up. We'll be with you, oh, certainly before the end of the year. Something holiday, something Soxivus, something. We'll be doing something. We'll see you for something sometime real soon.